So now that we've talked about some of the infrastructure that we're going to need to upgrade, specifically the search server, let's go into a little bit more detail and talk about some other things that we need to consider upgrading. So regardless of what I say from this point forward, your main source of figuring out what's certified and what's not is going to be right there. So this compatibility matrix is going to tell you pretty much everything that you need to know. Right, we're going to go over some of the details here, but refer to that support matrix. Always look for it as you go through your upgrade process. That's going to be your guide. Now, more likely than not, going from 6.2 to 7.1, we're going to need to upgrade some other things as well. So let's go ahead and talk about those things to be explicit and to lay it out. So the first one is going to be our application server. Again, typically what you may see is you're going to be taking an application server like Tomcat or any other application server out there. You're going to install Liferay onto that application server, take care of some of your dependencies, and on you go. Now, if you take this methodology, you're going to have a good chance of being outdated or no longer supported. So that's going to be your first thing that you're going to need to consider. Liferay does support a bunch of different application servers. And again, most common ones are things like Tomcat. You'll hear of, Glassfish and a couple of other ones out there. Right, when we're dealing with the upgrade process, a couple different approaches that you can take. You can start with a Liferay bundle and work from there, or you can take the more quote unquote classical approach, get your app server, get Liferay installed into it, install your dependencies, right? So a couple different ways you can do this. Now the database. We're not talking about the contents inside the database. We're talking about the database itself. MySQL, SQL Server, PostgreSQL. Again, upgrading to Liferay DXP 7.1 is also going to have an effect on your database as well. Now, generally speaking, right, you're going to want to plan this pretty early, right? It can be very time consuming to migrate all of your data from, one version to another, or just having to upgrade it in general. It can be a very time consuming process. So factor that in as soon as you can. Now, this isn't always going to be an issue. Liferay is database agnostic. Features and functionalities that different versions of a database might have, Liferay is not reliant on those specific things. Now, when we're dealing with operating systems, Liferay does have quite a number of different operating systems that it supports. In general, more often than not, right, some flavor of Windows or some flavor of is going to be enough. Right? So if you're using the common ones, right, you're going to be in good hands. We're not going to be using, Windows XP or Windows 95 to run Liferay. And I'm sure you're not going to run, your production server on some really offshoot Linux distribution like Gen 2 or something like that. Document storage. Now, going from 6.2 to 7.1, there have been a few changes that we need to note. First off, let's talk about what this document store or storage is about. This is just in regards to where are your documents and media going to be stored. So as you're creating and uploading documents in Liferay, it's got to be stored somewhere. We have the ability to configure that. So Liferay comes with a number of different ways of storing your documents somewhere. So the big four that we're going to talk about here is going to be the simple file system store. This is just where it's going to be. Right? It can be your local machine. It can be a remote mount somewhere else. So simple file system store is what's defaulted. Advanced file system store is optimized to allow for more files to be stored and to have a better performance. Amazon S3, you can store everything in the cloud using one of Amazon's AWS services to help you out there. CMIS, right? This connects to the CMIS compliance server, things like Alfresco, for example. If you already have your documents and media there, Liferay can connect to it. And then finally, the database. You can store stuff in the database. There's a giant blob. If it gets bigger than a gig, you're going to have to use a different methodology. So how to configure it? In Liferay DXP 7.1, there's two places that you have to go. The first place is going to be portal.ext.properties. In portal.ext, that's where you specify what is the implementation of your file, of your document store. Are you going to use simple file system store, advanced file system store, or one of the other options? So you specify that over in portal.ext. Once you do, you configure your means of storage over in system settings. So let's say, for example, I specified in my portal.ext that I want to use advanced file system store. Once you start up Liferay, over in system settings, what you would do over there is specify exactly where it's going to be stored. So you'll provide the directory. So portal.ext lets you choose which implementation. System settings allows you to configure the implementation. If you're JVM, right, if you're coming from 6.2, you were probably running on Java 7. Java 7 is no longer supported in Liferay 7.1. You're going to have to upgrade to Java 8. It's just no way around that. Now, cloud services, more of a sysadmin topic, but it is something to note. Again, using different cloud providers out there is becoming very, very popular. Either using Amazon AWS or Microsoft Azure or something else, right? There are ways in which you can, instead of using your own infrastructure, put it all in the cloud. That's a more of a DevOps topic. But with that in mind, Liferay does have its own cloud platform called WeDeploy, right? So WeDeploy, at least at the time of this video, we're calling it WeDeploy. So WeDeploy is Liferay's cloud service, right? So this is a very easy way to get Liferay up and running in the cloud. It's by using WeDeploy. It's something that we at Liferay have created and support. So if you are kind of on the fence on going to the cloud or maybe iffy on a number of the other solutions, consider WeDeploy. It's what we developed, it's what we use. So WeDeploy is a very good option. So that wraps it up for all of the considerations that we need in regards to our infrastructure. Again, the thing that you're going to be referencing the most when thinking about this is going to be that support matrix. So thanks for joining me, and I'll see you in the next video.